Yes, cool. Hey everybody. Welcome to June 30th's MakerDAO community call. My name is David Utrobin. I work at the Maker Foundation doing community development and just generally being part of the community, because that's how it all started for me, at least. And so welcome to the call. We use this call to go through kind of the week at MakerDAO, what's been happening, especially in the last 6 months since the launch of MCD. We've been focusing a lot more on governance, on on the different things that the community is up to, and also the usual things like DAI integrations, developer creations that we've seen in the community, and just a ton of like scattered news that we try to organize well and give to you guys. So in just about a second, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to walk through the agenda. So if you want to walk through the agenda with me, at the bottom of this Crowdcast UI, there should be a little green button called Agenda for the Call. You could now click on that, and it'll bring you to it. You can click on all the links, and you have access to the archive of all of the agendas through that link. So you could check out any date you want. Just hit Control F or Command F if you're on a Mac, and you could search it up. Otherwise, if you're watching on YouTube or the recording, I'm posting the link to that same agenda in the description, so you could check it out there. Hey, everybody in the call. What's up, Maria? What's up, Scott? What's up, Juan? Pleasure to see you guys. All right, time to update you all on what's happening. Yeah, I do need to do that. So actually, we've just been testing Crowdcast for like the last couple of weeks, and I'm beginning to really like it. So I think I'm gonna update the calendar invite with that Crowdcast link right after this call, probably. All right, let us do a screen share. Let's do a window. All right, sweet. Okay, cool. And I could probably zoom in like a slight bit to make it a little bit more readable for you all. Did my computer crash? No. Oh geez, no, that's way too much. And to think, I'm supposed to have a fast computer. What is this? This is called the Google Chrome effect. All right, cool. All right, this should be fine. All right, so let's get into it. Some TLDRs. There was an executive vote for the June 2020 MIPS, and it passed on Thursday. I think very, very close to when the vote was going to expire. But nevertheless, it passed, and all of the MIPS, I think it was 8 out of 9 changes were actually passed. The only thing that wasn't passed was the protocol DAI transfer MIP, which is I think MIP 14. But right now it's in the request for comment phase. But super thankful that this June 2020 MIPS vote passed, because at first it was very slow to gain any like support or maker. I guess people are vacationing or not paying attention, but it passed. The other executive vote this week that happened, that also passed this past Sunday, was an executive vote to raise the base rate from 0 to 25 basis points, which is 0.25%, and also to add KNC and ZRX vaults to multi-collateral DAI. So since it passed on Sunday, we actually now have KNC and ZRX-A vault types, and we even have DAI stats updated with those. So super excited to see that as well. All right, so the whitelisting oracles and new Lightfeed proposals that passed the governance poll stage a couple of weeks ago are going to be put up to an executive vote this coming Friday. So right now it is the 30th. So on the 3rd, there's going to be that executive vote. And I know it says enact a new stability fee, but I think that that's just the calendar that needs to be updated, because that's not accurate. Yeah, also related to MIPS, so just some context before I read the point, but basically, the way that the governance cycle at the Maker in the Maker protocol works is it's a monthly cycle, and it follows this. It follows the MIPS framework that Maker governance has voted in a couple of months ago. So right now we are concluding the second official governance cycle, which is June's, and we're about to be entering into July's. And so right now, since we are kind of in this, so this is June, right? So this is week 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're here in the middle of like a week 5, week 1 type situation. So we're actually in a 1-week little vacation mode with regards to MIPS, which is exactly what I wrote here. Yeah, so we're in between governance cycles. So there are not going to be any MIP-related activities this week or during this week's governance call, except maybe discussions. But yeah, and so also complementary to that detail, on July 8th, that's the deadline to submit MIP proposals, MIP amendments for the July governance cycle. So if it's not submitted on time, they continue to be in a discussion or request for comment phase. But yeah, just wanted to note that July 8th is the deadline for this coming governance cycle. All right, yeah. So those are pretty much the TLDRs. I'm going to go through some of the live votes that are available for MKR voters to vote on today. There is no executive vote happening right now. The next one is going to go up on Friday. There are a number of governance polls. We have our weekly base rate adjustment vote, which currently 0% is winning. So it's going to be a winning rate for going back down from 25 basis points. But notably, only 400 MKR is voting, and this vote is going to be live until Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is the same time that the governance call starts. If you want a reference point, like mentally, like I do. The range for the base rate adjustment actually goes into the negative area because of how we've configured the vote as a voting community. But I just wanted to note that the lower bound on the stability fee is 0, so we can't actually have negative rates. I saw that question asked, so I figured I might reiterate it for anybody on this call that's interested in that detail. This base rate adjustment vote is a ranked choice vote, so you can vote for 0% as your first choice, 0.25% for your second choice, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. The other governance poll that's happening is one to adjust the WBTC debt ceiling and the risk premium. Just a little bit of context. This is polling for debt ceiling raise from 10 million, what it is currently, to 20 million, so doubling it up, and also adding that risk premium. It's going to go up from 1% to 2%. So just quickly looking at WBTC here. So we're actually at the debt ceiling, and this is just extra stability fees from those positions. So where is it at? So right here. So as you can see, this is the base rate that's applied across all the different vault types. I wonder, it should be there, but yeah, it's applied to all the different vault types, and so the risk premium is anything for an individual vault type beyond that base rate. So since WBTC's risk premium, as judged by MKR governance, is 1% right now, it's 1.25. So if this governance poll passes and the following executive vote with the 2% risk premium passes, then this will become 2.25%. So yeah, that's how that works. And also, just a quick note, if you are in the call, feel free to use the chat. If you're interested in coming on and asking a question, I'm happy to invite you to come on the mic or on webcam. And so, yeah. All right, cool. So that's the adjust the WBTC debt ceiling and risk premium vote. Again, just like the other vote, it runs until Thursday. It's a yes/no vote, and currently yes is winning with about 500 MKR. So there's very, very low amounts of MKR voting on this stuff right now, since these votes have just been launched yesterday and run for 4 days. Akiva is asking, did the risk team approve this change? That's a great question. So I think actually it might have been a result of, let's close that. It might have been a result of the risk team and also the whole conversation happening about this on the forums. So if I could pull up the proposal, I could maybe get a better answer to your question. But in general, yeah. So Cyrus, who's the head of the interim risk team at the Maker Foundation, he agrees that this is pretty fine. But I don't want to 100% speak for him, and I know he mentioned that in chat. So I don't know if Cyrus was on the call. I would totally ask him to comment, but he is not. So yeah. So there was a signal request thread that I imagine had a ton of discussion. And actually, we could see if Cyrus is on here. So where is Mr. Cyrus Unesi? Well, either way, there was a ton of discussion, and I believe do it like this. We can Control F. Is he even in here? Yeah. Here. Oh, that's interesting that Control F brings that up and not like the browser search. Okay. In my personal opinion, this is 16 days ago, so maybe let's see if there's like an even more recent one from Cyrus. There was that post from him. Yeah, so I guess maybe it's I don't know if this reflects his actual stance right now, since this was a comment from about 2 weeks ago. But I think there was some disagreement at first about raising the debt ceiling. Yeah, I think his argument was if we're raising the debt ceiling, we also need to raise the risk premium. But I'm not going to get into it like 100% right now in this call, so sorry I don't have a better answer for you, Akiva. But I think in general, yeah, it would be interesting to get like a more solid statement from the risk team about this. But I totally encourage you guys to run through this thread and kind of come to your own decision whether it makes sense. All right. Yeah, and so far, like, not a lot of MKR has turned out, so it's not 100% clear what the community's sentiment around this is right now. The other set of polls that are running right now are the Collateral greenlight polls. So these are basically polls that say, hey, Maker voter, do you think that this token or asset is worth doing domain greenlight work? And what domain greenlight work is basically taking a token, right? And there's a number of different domain teams. There's an Oracle team, a smart contracts team, a risk team, and each of them do their own assessment of the collateral. So oracles would go in, they would actually, there's actually, I could show you guys what one of those assessments looks like, but they would go in and based on these greenlight polls would say, okay, like my next assessment, which one has the most interest? Okay, like KNC is actually already a collateral type, so there's like a little bit of nuance there. But like, let's say PAX-G. Okay, PAX-G has a ton of yeses, almost nobody voting against it, just like this lone 150 MKR. So, these help the domain teams make decisions for how to prioritize their work. And so, yeah, there's also a little bit of change that is going to be happening to the greenlight polls, particularly around the timing. They are going to be happening starting next governance cycle for 2 weeks, starting in the middle of the month. So they're going to conclude as the governance cycle concludes. That way, we start off the new governance cycles with these greenlight polls completed. So yeah, just a bit of housekeeping so you guys are aware. But nevertheless, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different collateral greenlight polls that are happening right now. And there's actually on average about 40,000 MKR, or like actually, an average is like 20,000 MKR voting between on each of these. But as you could see, I ordered them in kind of loose priority for what is most supported by the community versus what is least supported by the community. If you are interested in looking at it that way, and if you haven't voted yet, definitely go out and vote. These are wonderfully helpful and a big part of the collateral onboarding process. And so, yeah, that concludes all of the different votes that are actually happening right now. If you are interested in learning how to vote, I actually forgot to put on the. I wonder if this will come up in Google. If I add MakerDAO, it will. But we do have a really great community produced voter onboarding guide. It walks you through kind of like some of the. We really need to fix this link, but it walks you through where you can get information, how off-chain and on-chain voting works, and then it walks through like a whole tutorial of how to even set up your wallet. And so it's super helpful for new-time voters. I'm just gonna sneakily add that here. So if you're interested, check it out. All right. I'll move that eventually. But so here's some recurring threads. I've been messing around with the format of these agendas. And so these are kind of threads that I have here every week that are important that I suggest MKR voters bookmark because they are just great go-to places for info. Governance at a glance is a really good place to see like current events and the different active threads that are happening right now. Governance initiatives is a really great thread just to see the status and the initiatives that exist, and also all the links to the threads. So if you're actually interested in reactivating an inactive initiative, you can go in and really spearhead and take a leadership position in any of these. And then these are some of the active initiatives that are happening. So again, super great page if you're looking for a way to get involved in the Maker governance process. There's also a collateral status index. This is maintained by one of the governance facilitators, Long for Wisdom. He does a great job of keeping this updated. It basically puts a status to every single application. And so you could get a link to the actual initial application here. And as you could see, these are the domain teams. And based on whether or not the domain team actually did an assessment, you will see whether they did an assessment here. So as you could see, like the Oracle team greenlit, Mana deferred this, and then rejected these two. So yeah, and then there's also like individual comments for every single application, along with details for each. So very useful if you're particularly interested in the collateral onboarding aspect of Maker governance. And then likewise, this recurring thread, the link changes, but Charles St. Louis has the what's the word I'm looking for? Well, Charles St. Louis posts it every Sunday night or Monday morning. So these are very useful if you want to continue to learn and wrap your head around the MIPS framework and how, basically the different things that are happening week to week. Charles does a great job of explaining what's happening last week, what's happening this week, and then just some relevant news to governance in general. So super useful update. And sometimes we do walk through it, but I think I have some MIPS details below. And if not, we can actually come back and walk through it if there's interest in this call. Some other threads, there was a number of interesting ones, but I only chose two. There was a vault compensation plan proposal posted. This is an updated proposal, pretty much somewhat brand new. And actually Monet Supply and MakerMan presented about this proposal on the governance call. and I posted that link, not here. I guess the link is actually, where the hell is it? Oh no. Yeah, I will add a video link. Oh no, I know where I added a video link. I'm silly. I did it down here. Yeah, actually, so grab this whole thing. But either way, yeah, if you're interested, yeah, I guess I'll cover it in like about 5 minutes when I scroll down there. All right, cool. So the other thread that I do want to spend like a few minutes on, and I would love if somebody who is on the call right now has any like particular thoughts and insights about the issue that Cyrus raises through this forum post. If you have any thoughts or want to fill uh, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Give us more details or insight about this like pretty complex thing to think through. Definitely come on the mic. You're more than welcome. But I'll try to explain the issue as best as I can. But basically, Cyrus posted that the upcoming comp farming change could impact the DAI peg. And so here's just a quick blurb. Under the new rules, comp will be allocated to every dollar borrowed as opposed to interest paid. So this means that farmers are now going to try to borrow the most amount of money and will naturally try to pay the least amount of interest. Cyrus's expectation is that the two most popular farming assets are going to become USDC and DAI due to the shape of their attractive interest rate curves. And so, due to the APY for comp farming, there is a chance that we see an unprecedented demand for DAI, since people will find it more profitable. Actually, I'm not going to stop reading. I'm gonna give my own comment after I finish reading this blurb. But much of the natural supply for DAI could also be locked up in comp farming, thinning out the sell side order books. It's almost certainly more profitable to farm comp than to sell DAI for a small premium. This could break the peg sharply. So even the creation of new supply, generated obviously through the Maker protocol, might go to comp farming rather than actually selling on the spot markets. So all of the debt ceilings might instantly be maxed out. And so this is kind of like the worst case scenario that Cyrus sees that can potentially happen. But there's a couple of things in this thread. The comments are wonderfully interesting and helpful. A ton of people have raised some counterpoints to this thesis. But nevertheless, this is a really great case study in how the changes of another protocol being able to affect, like our protocol, right? The Maker protocol. So yeah, there's a couple of points that people raised. These are the most interesting things that I found. So there's actually a new DAI interest model in the works. So that's going to make it a little bit better. So you could check out the discussion at this link if you're interested. And then somebody mentioned that because of TX fees, comp farming only really makes sense with 10K plus. So the whole crowd of people who might be doing this with DAI or USDC are really like semi-whales and whales, right? But nevertheless, that I guess this doesn't really take away from the core issue. If anybody has any comments on this, definitely speak up in chat, and maybe I can invite you guys to the screen. But otherwise, I highly suggest you check out this thread and also the compound thread. And I hope I did at least a little bit of justice explaining the issue. But basically, there is a risk of DAI breaking upwards. So yeah. And there was also actually a lot of conversation trying to figure out if an immediate like 3 to 5% ARB, like if DAI shoots up and you're able to do like a quick 5%, whether that's more attractive than farming comp for a month and receiving that same like 5 to 10% that you'd expect in a DAI ARB. But then, yeah, there's kind of like a lot of arguments. So I'm not gonna monotonously kind of like review all of them right here, right now. But I highly suggest you guys dig into it because it's interesting. I also added this thread that started it when the liquidity mining trend began. like a week or two ago. So this is a discussion about how liquidity mining might impact the Maker protocol, and so this naturally is like an extension of that. But I don't think this is specific to Compound. So yeah, check out that discussion as well if that is what you're interested in. And Brian McMichael says demand is a good thing. It is a good thing until the DAI peg breaks, right? Then it's like a bad thing. At least that's how I think. I think I'm right. Might be wrong. I mean, obviously, we want a stablecoin to be stable, not break up. All right. So moving forward, yeah, Brian, if you want to come on the mic, and maybe spar with me about this for like a second. Here, I'm gonna hit the invite button.
What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, dude?
Yeah, so a high DAI price is in like this is just a long debate. This has not like been ongoing.
Yeah.
High DAI price means that the DAI is in demand, right? So there's actually a bonus for you to generate more. So DAI goes to $1.05, which kind of sucks if you want to pay your vault back, but it
Right.
also might incentivize someone else to create a vault and generate some DAI to sell on the market. And that's how we get to 1 billion DAI.
Through comp farming.
Yeah, comp farming, and every other DeFi Lego available. We just have to do it in a sustainable way. And like I understand the need to kind of put the brakes on that a little bit, but at the same time, like comp farming is just another demand vector for DAI.
So if people are going to be generating DAI and then putting it instead of on the sell side of an order book, putting it into supplying it on Compound, like doesn't that isn't the incentive stronger for comp farming rather than like pushing the peg down? Like what's like I'm trying to wrap my head around what's the equalizer, right? Like what?
Well, like right now, ETH, if you put your ETH into comp, you get like nothing. You get no return for that. So, I mean, as an ETH holder who wants to yield farm, then it's probably better off for me just to put my ETH into Maker, generate the DAI, and then throw that onto comp,
Right.
rather than trying to buy it off the market at $1.05.
That makes sense. And then the person who's borrowing that DAI that you're supplying off of comp might be either like loop leveraging themselves on Compound, or they would be buying some other asset long. Or
The thing that I'm more concerned about with all of this is if something happens with comp and all of a sudden now people want to not farm with DAI, right? Then they need to start they start dumping on the markets.
then it's
And
like the opposite problem.
that's the opposite problem. And that's a good problem for us because then we can just raise the DSR and
Exactly.
sop up some of that supply. But anytime you see DAI above $1, like as far as I'm concerned, that's a great thing because that means people want it, right?
Yeah.
When DAI is less than $1, that means people are selling it more than they're buying it, and that's when I get a little concerned.
Yeah, that's definitely a point I could agree with. I'm trying to think. Yeah. Geez, it's like it's so hard to wrap my head around. Like precisely. Like, okay, if DAI is trading above. Yeah, I mean, I guess the more
when you
it's
think
in the
about
extremes.
the talk about the negative interest rates, when you think of DAI above $1, that essentially is the negative interest rate. It's the same incentive mechanism. It's just putting it on the price of the DAI. It's putting it. It's actually giving the benefit to the person who's generating the DAI rather than sucking that away and giving it to the people that are already in there. So it literally is the exact same incentive mechanism. But by going to a negative interest rate, we could still be in a situation where if DAI is in demand, the price is still above $1. We're just paying people to generate it rather than letting the market pay the extra,
that
amount.
makes a lot of sense. I mean,
So,
I guess my one argument is like it's just crappy for people that are trying to enter or exit DAI into fiat in those moments, right? For like
absolutely,
those like
absolutely.
5 or 6 days where DAI is just trading
And
above. It's
and as DAI as DAI supply expands and we have a wider array, a basket of collateral that the DAI is coming from,
yeah.
shocks in certain areas aren't going to have the big hit to the big
The
uh,
volatility of the
yeah.
DAI price is going to go down over time with the increase of the overall supply, right?
And right now, when you think about it, what you can do is you can go to Coinbase and you can put $100 in and get 100 USDC, and you can transfer those off of Coinbase for free. They will pay they'll comp the transaction fees and everything like that.
Right.
And then at that point, I'm somebody who wants a permissionless, decentralized stablecoin. I might pay a premium to buy DAI because I know it can't be blacklisted in the future
Right. Right.
because
Right.
somebody didn't like my Twitter post. So that's why I see a DAI premium, and especially when it's at $1.02. Like that in big amounts basically just covers your transaction fee to make the trade.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it's there is still a 0.5% fee to buy on Coinbase itself, which is it kind of explains the spread in my eyes. So I'm not as concerned about a DAI price over as I am under, and it's a bundle of incentives. A high DAI price, yeah, it makes it harder to pay off your collateral loan, but that's part of the incentive. Like, it's an incentive for you not to pay off your collateral loan, just to hold on to it, because the system doesn't want the supply of DAI to decrease in a situation where it's in demand. So you either have to pay more to close out your position, or you just deal with it. And it's all part of the incentive structure. I'm pretty happy with DAI above $1, honestly, because like it does suggest demand, and we just need more DAI is all. Like, we just need. The problem is, how do we get people to create vaults to meet that's demand. We are at a fraction of the market cap of USDC, and if everyone's trying to convert the USDC to DAI, because it's available for games and for archeries and whatever, like,
I guess
we have to meet that demand.
Right, exactly.
And it's not a bad problem to have. But it is a problem.
Yeah, and it's cool because the incentives make the Maker protocol very reflexive to the problems that it faces. So so I guess it's not like a critical, like, gonna kill the protocol type of issue. It's just a usability and like scale type of issue.
Yeah, these are scaling problems. 95-cent DAI for a long period could I might start having some private concerns about that, but where we're at right now it's not a bad place to be. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dude, thank you always for coming on. I'm always interested in your insights, man.
Well, thank you.
All right, sweet. Yeah, that was super interesting. All right, cool. So moving forward, there is going to be a summary of Thursday's risk and governance call. It's going to be posted a little bit later today to the link here. So I pre-linked it for you all. And then I just wanted to remind whoever's an MKR voter in here that there are 2 new categories in the Maker Forum that were created a couple weeks ago. So I'm keeping these in the agenda for like a little while, just so people are aware about them. but there is a proposal ideas category. This is a great place to propose an idea in the pre-MIP phase of it. So yeah, it's really a great place for finding where the discussions are happening and for also posting or adding your own discussion. Then there's also a read-only category for polls and votes. That's dedicated to providing a bit more awareness and the ability to notify forum accounts of what's going on during the governance cycle in terms of voting. So it's going to be hopefully the go-to place to see like active inclusion polls, governance polls, executive votes related to MIPS, etc. So we're going to see how both of these categories develop over time. All right. Some highlights from the community. As many of you know, we are in the midst, we actually just completed month 1 of a 3-month SourceCred trial. And SourceCred, if you don't know, is a really interesting project. What it aims to do is it aims to reward people for participating and contributing towards Maker's decentralized governance. At least this instances, SourceCred is like a project on its own, but it's applicable to various communities. And the idea is to incentivize people to do productive and work that actually contributes to affecting change. And so in the context of Maker, this is done through analyzing and rewarding forum activity for individual forum accounts. And so you could see a little bit of kind of the chart here, but this is a chart of basically the top earners over the last 4 weeks, and you could see a ton of people in here, kind of up and down. But if you are interested in opting in to the SourceCred trial, you can send a DM to this account on the forum and just indicate your desire to participate and provide an ETH address that you can be sent payment in DAI to. So the SourceCred trial gives out about 1,200, 1,250 DAI every week, and the idea is to give out 15,000 DAI to the Maker governance community that is active on the forums. And what's more interesting is that there are a number of variables that are tunable to kind of affect the algorithm that determines the payout. And so this is really interesting because in times of let's say a really boring vote, you can increase the weight of participation towards that vote in the forums, and that might help with voter apathy, and it might do interesting things for the governance community. So this has been one of my favorite kind of experiments in the forums so far. And also, if you're interested, there's links here to the actual instance, so you could actually see and also kind of sort and understand the weight configuration of the different things. And I think they're actually going to be coming out with an updated page of this. But yeah, so you could check it out here. Yeah, so, and at the same time, payouts are redeemable at the end of each month, as long as you opted in and earned at least 10 DAI. All right, moving forward. We are coming up, this is the last week for the Protect Privacy Virtual Hackathon that the Maker Foundation is partially sponsoring. We have 2 bounties in it, which are down here. A privacy and payments bounty and a privacy in governance and voting bounty. And so yeah, we're coming up towards the end, and I've already seen a number of really interesting submissions. So here are links to the 3 that I saw for privacy and payments. All of them in some sense are pretty related. The top one uses ZK tokens. This is a privacy vault that uses some form of ZK snarks. And then POC Secure Send ERC20. I forgot the name of the thing it uses. It uses something called Zephyr. Yeah, anonymous Zephyr. which I think is also a different like ZK Snarks type of solution. So lots of solutions in the privacy and payment side. I saw one PR submitted for the privacy and governance and voting bounty, and this is a MakerDAO ballot generator. So it allows a MKR voter to set up a voting contract and basically vote with a address that has no transactional connection to the creation of the ballot or the deposit of MKR into the voting contract. And it's really cool because it uses kind of like a Tornado Cash like system to do it. And so if you're interested in the details, there is a Medium post here that you could check out. And the author does an amazing job breaking down what he built. And then for articles, DeFi Saver automation performance analysis, setting up for maximum profits. This is, I thought, was just a really interesting piece. So highly suggest it, especially if you're a DeFi Saver user. Check it out. And then, yeah, so here is the link to the Vault Compensation Plan presentation that happened on last week's governance call with Makerman and Monet Supply. Basically, here are the touch points. First of all, for the vault compensation to actually happen, before it happens, there needs to be a protocol DAI transfer MIP. So there has to be some process for actually being able to distribute DAI or funds out of the Maker protocol to specified ETH addresses, right? So since the protocol DAI transfer MIP didn't pass in this governance cycle, it's in the request for comment phase, and it might be resubmitted for this month, if not, hopefully next month. But regardless, this is like a fundamental piece of the puzzle, right? The next steps include voting on what method to do the compensation calculation by. There's, I think, 4 different options with some trade-offs, and they are covered in both the slides, in the presentation, and also in the forum thread. I'll link after the call. Yeah, so this initial proposal, additionally, is gonna I'll answer your question in a second, Akiva. But this initial proposal will ask for 150% of whatever the calculated amount is. And the reason for that is that the surplus is going to go towards BAT 0-bid vaults and partially self-liquidated vaults that also, at some degree, were victims to the 0 bids, right? And so the idea is that a calculation would be made for all the like pure 0-bid victims, and then for anybody that is like a slightly more special case that requires a bit more careful calculation and viewing, they're going to be able to, and this is just a proposal, so this isn't like set in stone yet, but they're going to be able to submit their position and say, hey, can you please calculate what my compensation is, and whatever that 50% is above all of the normal cases, that's going to be used to serve those special cases that are going to be reaching out to the support team. Yeah, and so this might change, of course, but this is just kind of the first real proposal for how to do it. Yeah, there's this really great image from the slide of what the phases for the compensation process are going to look like. There's the poll to approve the plan. There's a poll to decide the compensation method. We have to obtain quotes for the development work for the actual dispersal smart contract and all that stuff. Then in phase 2, there's going to be an MKR poll to decide compensation percentage. There's going to be a poll and an executive vote to fund the actual development of the contract. Then there's going to be the completion of that compensation contract development and an audit of it. So this is really building the means to pay people out. In phase 3, there's going to be a poll and an executive vote to fund compensation. And then there's going to be a manual claims, as I mentioned before, accepted for 30 days and checked by the review team for those special cases of like partially self-liquidated people and BAT vaults in the same situation. And then last, for phase 4, after minimum 90-day claims period, there will be an executive vote to move whatever unclaimed funds remain back into the surplus buffer. And so that's the proposal. So we will see how it moves forward in the coming weeks. Akiva asks, why are MIPS now able to skip the 3 months? So what Akiva is referencing is the fact that whenever a MIP comes out, it has it's specified that there should be a 3-month request for comment phase before it can actually enter the MIPS like governance cycle. And I'm not 100% sure what like the answer that I got from Charles and others is that for this first phase of using the MIPS framework, that we are going to kind of do things as needed, and we're going to shape the process to a one that makes the most sense for our governance process. So a 3-month request for comment phase is important, but I don't think it's like a hard requirement, or at least we're not treating it like one yet. I'm gonna record that question though, and I'm gonna hopefully get an even better answer for you next week. If I could see it next time I grab these. Cool. Yeah, hopefully that like slightly answers your question, but yeah, and it's the same reason. It's kind of the same reasoning behind why the Oracle related changes are actually not going through the MIPS cycle either. They are going through a weekly governance cycle. And that's because it's actually pretty high urgency to do the Oracle stuff for the sake of people like DeFi Saver who rely on our oracles, who actually applied for whitelisting. So to get them whitelisted is like high priority, and we shouldn't wait until like the end of the month. We should probably do it like as soon as we can, right? So it's working out those kinks, and it's really just the growing pains of these first few months. So yeah, hopefully that is satisfactory. Juan says, Rich would say that we need to balance expediency with process, and that we're in a transition period. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. All right, cool. So moving forward, we're coming up towards the end of it, but from the foundation, this week we actually had an internal hackathon that lasted for 2 days and produced 8 different hacks. More details on that soon. There was only one integration that I saw this week. It was Morpheus.network. They integrated DAI payment into their platform, and their platform basically uses blockchain to do like cool supply chain stuff. They use like GPS and like IoT stuff. It's like very like 2017 supply chain blockchain vision type company. But I don't know too much about them. I just read a little bit about what they're about. This article gets into a lot of the details, which is why I linked it. So if you're interested in understanding what Morpheus.network is, you could read that article. All right, and so for real life events, there is a virtual Friday brunch that's going to be happening, I believe, on Friday. Actually, I might as well open this and not mess up the date. Yeah, so it's happening Friday, July 3rd. Yeah, so this coming Friday. Use this link, the link inside of her Twitter to sign up. It's going to be really interesting. I believe the last one went really well. So if you're interested in hanging out with some of the community for like a little bit of a brunch hour, join us. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and put my face on this monitor so I'm not looking sideways. And thank you guys. So thank you for coming on the call and listening and asking your questions and participating in the chat. This was a fun one, and we are gonna end it a few minutes early. If anybody has any questions, feel free totally to type them in the chat now. If you're interested in having some sort of a short discussion before we end the call, again, type it in the chat. I'm happy to invite you onto the mic and the webcam, and we could have a convo. Yeah, sweet. Yeah, Brian. Yeah, I really enjoyed that convo with you, Brian. So thank you for that as well. Yeah, hopefully we could do more of those kind of like fireside interviews. All right, sweet. I'm gonna hit the stop recording button. And it's interesting because I can't hit the stop recording button without like leaving the room. So with that being said, thank you all for coming. I hope you all have a wonderful Tuesday and see you next week.